let's talk about Jimmy Garoppolo, though. How dependent on Jimmy Garoppolo are the 49ers? You know the stats, right? Like with him, they win these games. Without him, they don't. It seems like yada, yada, yada. He's the common denominator. What do you think?
Yeah, he is. And I've been trying to rack my brain because this team has been so up and down. They've been very mediocre, right? And it just dawned on me early last week that he's the reason that this team is where it's at. And I'm not saying it's his fault, right? Win or lose, I'm not putting a majority of it on Jimmy. What I'm saying is, you look at Jimmy, he's the same player he was in 2019. Okay. Maybe some things are slightly better, slightly worse, but roughly he's the same exact player. The difference is 2019 had a dominant run game, the number 2 running offense in the NFL. And then the defense was also very dominant, depending on the metric you look at, 1 or 2. They don't have either of those this year. Those things have been up and down. They've shown flashes at times, but this team is where it's at because it has to rely on Jimmy way more than it probably ever wanted to. And when you rely on a mediocre quarterback, you have a mediocre season. And I think that's exactly where the 49ers are at. Again, I don't want to come off as I'm throwing it's all Jimmy's fault. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they do rely on Jimmy G a lot more than what they had hoped going into the
Right.
season. And because of that, their record is what it is.
I see what you're saying. Like they're more dependent on the quarterback position than they'd like to be. But and I'm with you on that because to me, when they went on that 3-game winning streak, when everyone thought they were back, it was they're winning with their running backs. And a lot of teams did that in November, right? It was kind of the trend across the league. But you get into December and January, usually your running backs are beat up, and usually you win or lose based on your quarterback play. And last 2 weeks, he hasn't been able to just hand the ball off 45 times. That's not happening anymore. He's had to throw a lot, and that was not good against Seahawks. They lost, and it could have went either way against Cincinnati. They won because Cincinnati's special teams was awful. So, too dependent on Jimmy Garoppolo. But the way I interpreted this question when you sent it to me was, when they win, I really feel like 20 quarterbacks could be as successful in this offense as Jimmy Garoppolo. 20, 25. Nothing against Jimmy Garoppolo, but Kirk Cousins could do it. Matt Ryan could do it. Joe Burrow could do it. Tua Tagovailoa could do it. A lot of quarterbacks would look good with Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. That trio is as good as any trio in the league, really. And no, the Niners' pass protection isn't great, but a lot of quarterbacks could, move around better than Jimmy. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's exactly what it is Jimmy's fine, right? We've talked about it. We think Jimmy's doing a better job this year at his job than even Shanahan is. And a lot of people may take exception to that, but Jimmy's been fine. Jimmy is not the only problem. He is a problem, right? I'm not saying he's a solution either, but at the same time, this team, he is so up and down, and this team has been so up and down, and it's because they rely on his right arm way more than they want to.
well, this is what happens when you start paying your quarterback 12, 13% of your salary cap. Back in 2019, he was making like 8%, which is reasonable for a quarterback. And they rode their defense to the Super Bowl, as Dan R points out. Once you start paying 12, 13, 14% of your cap to a quarterback, forget the defense. What defense? Any defense you have is lucky. Like, you must have drafted really, really well that year because probably you're spending all your money on offense,
Right. Yeah.
I think that's
absolutely
a big reason that Bill Belichick wanted to get rid of Tom Brady. He was kind of wrong about that, right? Brady wasn't done. But he was just like, I want to have the number 1 defense in the league again. And he does. And, he has good enough quarterback play. I don't think he cares that much about it. Like, he just won a game throwing 3 times. I think he's trying to prove the point. Quarterback is overrated. Defense matters. There's other ways to win. You don't just spend $1 million, actually $50 million on a quarterback and assume you're going to win the Super Bowl. I applaud Bill Belichick for doing what he's doing.
Yeah, he's playing it right. And this goes back to the argument that I made about Alex Smith. If he was on the 2019 49ers, would he have won a Super Bowl? And I really think he would have, because he was the perfect quarterback for that team. Mac Jones right now is the perfect quarterback. When you have a number 1 defense, you just need to have a quarterback that protects the ball. And Mac Jones, even though he's a rookie, he's doing that very well. And they're doing a good job of not putting him in positions where he's not going to protect the ball, or he's going to put the ball in the harm of being turned over. And because of that, that team is going to continue to win football games or at least be very competitive.
Yeah, and a big reason they have the number one defense is because they spent their money on Matt Judon and not a quarterback. So
yeah,
smart.
That's true.
Yep. Jody says, "Hey guys, as it stands, we play Arizona in wild card. If we win, then Tampa. I'm concerned about this path. We have not done well against Arizona. Would it be better to face Green Bay? What's the more favorable path? Well, we can do that right now.
Great segue.
What is the worst playoff matchup for the 49ers?
Okay, so the absolute worst playoff matchup, which is, by the way, the one that I want because I live 20 minutes away from Tampa Stadium, would be the Buccaneers. I would love to be at that game, win, lose, or draw, seeing Tom Brady versus the 49ers. Selfishly, I want that matchup. But as far as what's best for the 49ers, what's best for the 49ers is to avoid Tampa Bay at all costs. That's a team that will completely take away your run game. You're going to have to beat them throwing the ball. Then on the flip side, you're going to have to expect these corners that are thin at best right now to face off against 3 elite receivers, an elite tight end, and the best quarterback of all time. That is not a matchup that you want on the road. That one is the one that you have to avoid at all costs.
Yeah, I agree. Tampa. That's the reigning Super Bowl champion. They have the best quarterback of his generation. Tampa. Now, I feel here that honestly, no matchup is good. They're all not good. And the degrees of not good are, I mean, Tampa's bad, but Green Bay's bad. Green Bay in the cold, Arizona. I mean, Arizona.